Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. We got Joe Rogan and Jeff Dye. And I like this Jeff guy. I have not heard of him. He's a comedian, but he decides that he is going to call out Neil deGrasse Tyson and the woke mind virus that has spread through his brain. I don't know if you've seen Neil deGrasse Tyson on his past podcast appearances on various podcasts, but I'm going to show you some clips today of that. He has just become unhinged when it becomes a topic, or when he's talking about a topic of gender or trans or wokeism. It's just so wild to watch because he's somebody that you really think of as, oh, this guy's really smart and I should listen to this guy. No more. Maybe with space. But he's decided to take on topics that I just believe are out of his scope completely. So we got Joe Rogan and Jeff Dye talking about that. Then we have Neil deGrasse Tyson and the gentlemen who are a part of a podcast called Trigonometry. I got 2 clips from that. Then we have Neil deGrasse Tyson sitting with Bill Maher, and Bill Maher just completely calls him out on everything that he's talking. And it needs to happen. It needs to happen. I'm sorry. Come with me on this ride. We have about 5 clips for you guys. Let's get into it. Don't forget about IamCoachColin.com. We got Soul Not For Sale. We got Public Enemy #1, and we have The Great Resist. Discount code is IamCoachColin. All capital letters, all one word, 1 L in the name Colin. Let's get started.
I figured that was accurate.
All right, so what do you get in trouble for saying it for?
Because he was I don't know. This is
so what were you mad at Neil deGrasse Tyson for?
I'm not mad at him. I'm annoyed that a man of science would say things like, I like to get my information from smart people. I like to think that a guy like him, who's very smart, would say a smart thing that has no emotions linked to it. You like to think,
right.
Give me the facts. Give me some stuff.
Which he does with a lot of things.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I've used to really like him a lot. And then he'll say something like, someone will say, well, like biologically, we have a male and a female has chromosomes, different chromosomes than a man. You can look at the bones of a man and the bones of a female, and despite what's going on in your emotions and in your soul or spirit or whatever we want to label it, if we're just talking about the biological makeup of something, we can put them into 2 categories.
Yes.
Forget what your spirit is or your essence or how you feel. If we're just looking at the meat and bones and cells and chromosomes of something, we can make biological arguments that there is a male and a female. And then his argument goes, why do you care? What do you mean, why do I care? You're the man of science. You should tell me that should be your argument, is that if we're just looking at biology and not the spirit of someone or whatever, the feelings. And instead his argument is, why do you care? I care. I want you to tell people facts about things scientifically, not just go, what does it matter? You go, well, when you go on about the cosmos, people don't go, why do you care? We care. like that's not a good scientific argument for things. And he's really jumped ship on science as a science guy.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but
Strange.
it's a mind virus. And it's a mind virus that demands compliance. You have to comply to this ridiculous new ideology. And a part of that, and this is where it really annoyed me about his argument, was that should apply somehow to sports.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where this is going. This is why it's so crazy. Yeah. That is absolutely insane. That's absolutely insane. This is not saying that people shouldn't be allowed to be transgender. Of course they should. You'd be allowed to do whatever you want to do.
We can treat them nice, but then also have facts.
But you cannot just say you're a woman and compete with women in sports. And if you support that, scientifically, that is untenable. Like, that's just scientifically, with the amount of data that we have about the differences between males and females in sports, the gap is so wide that you're going to have your outliers, the extraordinary females and your weak men, and they're going to kind of cross over.
They love to use those examples.
Yeah, but those examples aren't valid because if you take a biological male of normal athletic ability competing against a biological female who is elite of elite, the biological male has massive advantages, especially in things like combat sports. So they just passed a thing allowing biological males to identify as females and box females.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
And I don't know what parameters they have. You can't just be making weight. Because if it's just making weight, like, holy shit, are you testing testosterone levels? Are you making sure? Because what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
There's a reason it's separated.
It's so crazy to let them do this because there are people that are legitimately transgender and they, again, should be able to do whatever they want to do. But there's also people that are out of their fucking mind.
Be reasonable. That's all it is.
And there's people that literally, if you allow them to pretend to be a woman and beat women up, they will do it.
Yep. Well, it's funny. I use Brendan Schaub in the bit. I'm doing it on my special, The Last Cowboy in L.A. I have a bit where I talk about Fallon Fox, right? And because I used to be one of these guys. I'm a comedian. I want everyone to laugh. I want to be the clown. People go, I saw the clown. It made me happy. Going to work tomorrow happy, you know? So I used to be one of these guys that goes, I don't know. Ask someone else, you know? That used to be me from Seattle going, hey, I don't know. And they say, hey, can you believe they're letting a woman fight in UFC? She's a biological male who...
It wasn't in the UFC. It was in a smaller, smaller organization.
And then I say to myself, like, hey, I don't have no opinions. But then you watch it, and it's like the one girl in the corner, I'm D'Amica, you know, and then then they go versus Fallon Fox, like, rah! And I was like, oh, maybe I have some opinions. Like, wait, they're gonna let them fight? Like, that's when you start going, maybe I do have some. And you saw the fight, bah, 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 and I go, all right, I formed a few opinions about this subject.
It looked like domestic violence.
It was crazy. You like that? We don't like it.
And then you hear the voice, and you're like, what the fuck?
But you can't watch that and then still be like a tepid guy who's like, oh, you know, I don't really have an opinion on this. Let them do what they want.
Well, back then, Neil deGrasse Tyson wasn't chiming in like this.
Ever.
No.
Yeah.
So this is he got caught up in that same silly mind virus. Look, it doesn't mean you're not a compassionate person that recognizes that there's a whole wide variety of human beings that feel different than you.
Sure.
And we should be open-minded to that for sure. But you should also protect women. You should protect women's sports and protect women that are forced to, in high school, in college, and even in some professional sports, forced to compete against people that have significant physical advantages. Yeah. And I bet a lot of those people are out of their fucking minds. How about tell me what percentage of them have mental issues?
Right.
What percentage of these people that are doing this have mental issues? It's probably a lot, and you're allowing them to get all this credit and all this extra love. Yeah. Because people lean in. You've seen comics lean into their audience and become a different person because they develop a certain audience and they kind of like, I'm going to lean into that. Yeah. People lean into everything.
Right.
They'll lean in to being a woman. You know, they just decide. They're like, look at all the love I get from being a woman. You put the lipstick on. Oh, girl, you look so good. Thank you, baby.
Yas, queen.
And then you're all cosplaying.
Yeah.
And they lean into it.
Well, but
and there's also legit trans people.
Right.
There's legit people that really should be a woman. Nature just fucked you.
Yeah.
You got a shit hand of cards. Or got all jumbled up or whatever it was.
And why do you care?
Oh
well,
my God.
I'll tell you what. If I had a daughter that's trying to get a swimming scholarship, like, then you care.
Then you care.
You start to say, well, I'd like for someone smart and famous and someone who could be on a thing like this to maybe say these things instead of just going, well, why would you care? Some people care. There's people that care about these subjects.
Ari sent me this karate fight the other day between this guy and a girl, and it's so quick and so violent. It's so disturbing. It's so disturbing that someone let this happen in the first place, and I think they're both black belts.
Okay.
And this guy manhandles this lady so quickly and so awfully. If you can't find it, I'll find it. You want me to send it to you?
Making sure this is it.
Let me see. They're both wearing white karate gis and they're standing apart from each other.
Here it is.
Look at this.
Oh, that first one was.
Bro, this is like. And then
what's that last one?
He's a dick. He's a dick.
What's the leg thing she's doing here?
She's
just tapping.
Yeah, but that
and then
last
he just
part.
bitch slaps her to the ground. That's the difference between males and females when it comes, especially to combat sports. It's not fair. There's not a world where that's fair.
Yeah, and if you do think that this is fine, make a men versus women NFL. Let's just do that. Let's do it. If you really think, the men would win 60 years in a row. We'd be like, we won the championship again. The field would just be covered of broken women. Like, I broke my femur.
I'm waiting for trans men or trans women in the WNBA. Like when
that starts,
bro, that all of a sudden would be an exciting game.
I'd watch. Yeah, we got dunks now.
Not just that, but you got freaks. Yeah. It's a wild freak show.
Well, and you know what it is like
7-foot dudes with lipstick on.
even if there was a woman who was so good at women's basketball that she could compete in the NBA, I would say don't let her do it. Because
but you're gonna get knocked around.
Yeah, because it's also like, well, that's not what we're doing here.
Right.
Otherwise, then the men could go play with you because they're good enough.
Did you see this? I think he's a professor somewhere in Canada. He's a 50-year-old man who identifies as a teenage girl, and so he's competing with teenage girls in swimming.
I've not seen this.
And they let him change in the same changing room.
Yeah, those things. See, these are things that matter.
So they let this 50-year-old man whip his cock out.
Yeah.
And be naked.
That's wild.
In the presence of teenage girls. So they put curtains up to try to shield it. 50-year-old trans swimmer shared locker room while competing against teens. The girls were terrified. And look at that crazy fuck.
Yeah, this is
so nuts that anybody would allow that.
Someone might be listening to this and go, "Oh, come on, this is like an isolate." Yeah, but even if it happens once, don't you think that's too much? If it happens one time,
this is just like the Fallon Fox thing. When that happened, I was outraged. I was like, "This is ridiculous. That's a guy," and people got so mad at me. And I was like, "This is a wild thing to get mad at. I'm not getting mad at someone for being trans.
Right.
I'm getting mad at someone for lying, and not saying they were trans for 2 fights.
Yeah,
2 fights. Look, if you're a trans woman and a biological female agrees to fight you, I feel the same way that I feel when someone's going to ride a bull. Like, I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to do it,
Sure.
I support your right to do whatever the fuck you want to do. There's a woman who fought in the UFC, Ashley Evans Smith, and she actually beat Fallon Fox.
Oh, okay.
She beat her. She mounted her and pounded on her. But she's
Nice.
a really good fighter, and
Yeah.
she made it to the UFC, where she lost to Raquel Pennington, who is the current UFC bantamweight champion. So she's a legit fighter.
Yeah.
But it starts with that. And if it keeps going, if there's enough people that promote this term, minor attracted person, that term is so crazy to me that it almost feels like a 4chan troll that just went amok and just like free bleeding. You know, free bleeding was a 4chan.
Man, well, actually, you know, that last part's not funny, but when you're thinking about Fallon Fox, if you don't know about that fight that he's talking about, not the one where Fallon Fox lost, the one where she, I guess, won. Oh man, fractured the poor girl's skull. Like I think the back or like near the top, fractured her skull. Real. It was so crazy. And then the celebration, Fallon Fox, you know, this wonderful woman, they give her the mic and she's like, "Yeah, you guys like that? You guys like that?" I'm not even being mean. I'm not even making it up. I didn't even do the voices deep. I promise you I didn't. I'm not being mean. I'm telling you, it just happened like that. Now, Joe Rogan brings up that 50-year-old man. I do have a little bit on that. Now, the gentleman who got arrested, I did a video recently. There was a gentleman who got arrested in Canada for questioning one of Justin Trudeau's cabinet members. Okay, part of Justin Trudeau's administration. He asked her a question. The officers rolled up on him, did some kind of nasty tactic, said you bumped into me, and arrested him for assault and took him away. This same gentleman is the one that actually covered this story. So I'm going to show you the article right now. Let's get into that. So this is the article that Joe was just showing on the screen. And here's another one. Same thing. I mean, it's just a weird thing. Just this gentleman's 50, competes against teenagers in Canadian swim meets, and he's in the change room with them. You know, and the girls are terrified, obviously, because they're not exposed to this type of thing. And, you know, no matter how woke or free thinking people are supposed to be in the world, young girls don't have that type of life experience, and they don't know how to just be cool in a situation like that. They're just never in those situations, as they should never be, right? So this gentleman actually does cover it. This is a clip of him. He gets interviewed by Megyn Kelly. So let's just play this real quick, just to give you some context on what Joe was talking about.
Center is designated it's their property. They want you to move out to the street.
I am not on their property. I'm on the sidewalk, and that's a road. That's the King's Highway. So I have not gone in there, and I'm not trespassing. We know there's a 50-year-old man going into the change room. Hold on, no, officer, excuse me.
You guys know, this is public property here, and so he's going to be allowed to stay here.
There's a 50-year-old man going into the change room. No, wait a minute. No, not coming. Officer, I'm asking you to uphold your oath. This is a crime against section 173.1 and 173.2 of the criminal code, officer. What are you going to do about the pervert?
Okay.
What are you going to do about a 50-year-old man?
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, all right? Are you serious? Are you serious?
Oh my gosh, and they are. What criminal violation is there?
Yes, I'll read it verbatim, Megan. 173.1 states, quote, "Everyone who willfully does an indecent act in a public place in the presence of one or more persons, or in any place with intent to insult or offend any person, is guilty of an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 2 years," end quote. And Megan, section 173.2 states, quote, "An indecent exposure charge under this section of the code means that the person charged is accused of exposing their genital organs to a person under the age of 16. Because this offense involves a minor, it is more serious than an indecent act charge," end quote. Here's the thing, Megan. The athletic bodies, at least in Canada, they're saying we have no choice but to cater to these transgender activists because the human rights commissions and the human rights tribunals have told us to do that. But these are non-elected, unaccountable, bureaucratic, woke bodies, Megan. They do not trump the law of the land. They do not trump the Criminal Code of Canada. But as you saw, it looks like, according to those police, not only are we not going to arrest someone who might be a sexual pervert, but we're going to try to shut down journalism and lie about public property being private property. This is an outrage. My goodness, if this happened in your country with the First Amendment, I think we're talking about a major lawsuit.
Wow. Again, I've talked about this guy before. He really pushes the envelope. He works for Rebel News. Rebel News is a news outlet that has, I think it's, the roots are in Canada. They have a couple of upstarts that are going on, a couple of correspondents in America, and then they have some in Australia, and I think they might have one in the UK, something like that. But they push. This guy in particular pushes very hard. He makes sure that people who he wants to question feel pressure. There's no politicians laughing and hanging out with him when he's on deck. He's pretty serious about this stuff. So let's get into Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm gonna play the first clip. This is him on trigonometry. They're kind of they're asking their own questions, having their own discussion, but then they're gonna play another clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson when he got a little unhinged and just overall odd. I don't know. Isn't he an astrophysicist or something? I don't know what happens to people who are in these highly regarded, intelligent spaces where all of a sudden they think they're the authority on every single thing that comes up. Or maybe he's just bought and paid for. I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. Let's get into it.
One of your functions over time has been to communicate scientific knowledge to the public.
Yeah.
And that's why I was quite surprised to hear you talk about the idea that we all exist on a spectrum where you wake up one day and you feel like you're more female and more male.
The XXXY chromosomes are insufficient because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care? Yeah. What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum? My only point was that if who you decide is male and female in the street is a construct of style and trends and what the beauty industrial complex wants you to see, if that's how we establish gender, then maybe some people want to be fluid within that gender identify. So they'll wear a skirt, but maybe have a beard, or they'll mix and match that in whatever way you want. Hold on. Wait, I'm almost done. So,
okay.
If a person using the tools of the beauty industrial complex wants to mix and match this,
yeah,
and they are expressing their freedom in a free country to do so, why is your job to tell them not to?
Okay.
That's my only point. And so I'm speaking of gender expression and the freedom to do so. And if you want to restrict that, then what country are we living in? Yeah,
Hold on. So first of all, I don't know a single person, and we've talked to trans people on the show. We have trans employees at Trigonometry. We've spoken to all sorts of people about this issue. I do not know a single person who wants to prevent people from dressing how they want, or behaving how they want, or choosing any name that they want. However, the problem is,
so you don't, but you know such people are out there.
I'm sure such people exist in the same way that there are people who believe that the earth is flat and so on, but they're a tiny minority.
They exist. I don't know how tiny they are, given the dialogue today.
Fair point. However, what I would say is that the conversation in the public consciousness has become prominent not between people who want to defend the right of anyone to dress how they want and the people who want to prevent that. The reason the conversation has become an issue is that we assign and allow certain privileges to people based on their sex. If you are female, you get to go to places that only other females are in, like changing rooms and toilets and so on. If you are female, you get to compete only with people of your sex, because females are at a disadvantage in physical competition to males in almost every sport. In other words, we carve out certain areas where your sex matters tremendously, even though we may respect your right everywhere else to believe that you are whatever you are, to dress however you are, etc. So your claim that today you woke up and put lipstick on and grew your hair out long and tweezed out your mustache and whatever, and therefore you are female, has an impact on other people in certain contexts in which that is a problem.
You gave only 2 contexts. Do you have others?
Sorry, I wasn't finished. And in those contexts, it is essential, people would argue, to protect women from unfair competition and from various risks for which female-only spaces already exist. That's why people are having this conversation. Okay. It's not out of bigotry.
Do you have more than those 2 examples? And I'll address each of those in turn. But do you have more than those 2? Probably not. Okay. So let me address those 2 examples directly. I'll address them.
Sports is very important.
You said that.
Female-only spaces.
I remembered. But you don't seem to have a third example. And even if you do, we presume that would be a very distant third compared to those 2 cases. Right.
No, there's a third one I can give you very easily. In this country, for politics, we have female-only shortlists for positions in Parliament. Therefore,
I didn't know about that. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, that's another example. I can give you more. So female-only shortlists, there are certain targets within corporations for diversity targets to have a certain number of women on the board. Therefore, when you make a claim that you are female, you are attempting, whether intentionally or not, to insert yourself into categories that are deliberately designed to protect women's interests. That is the concern that people have. So there's 4 examples for you there. Please address them.
Sure. So interesting about the Parliament. I have to look into that to find out what is it try to ensure the representation of women? Is that the goal?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, fine. So it's a perfectly noble cause there. So
yeah, that's what they all are. Every single thing that is around this argument is to help protect and preserve women and have their best interests and have them have their fair shake at things, have their own leagues, have their own change rooms, have them be safe. Oh man, it's so silly. But you see how he's being condescending to this guy. He's like, oh, I already heard that. You don't have to say it. I remember. Like, he's just being very condescending. I don't know what I think. Clearly bought and paid for. But what I think is when you are put on a pedestal for your intelligence, as we did to Neil deGrasse Tyson years ago with the cosmos and all that stuff, we put him on this pedestal as you are all intelligent and we all have to learn from you. When you speak, we all have to listen. I think that gets to a person's head. And you're not questioned. When he does talks and things of that nature, he's not questioned. And then all of a sudden you have, again, because this guy is no longer a scientist. He's a celebrity. He's not my opinion, he's not a scientist anymore. He's a celebrity. Same way Anderson Cooper is not a journalist anymore. He's basically just an actor. You know what I mean? So he now has a manager. He now has an agent. He now has a PR company that helps him get gigs and this and that. He now has a little bit of an overhead. He now has, he's now in the Hollywood machine. And they turn to him and say, hey, you want to give your thoughts on transgenderism? You want to give your thoughts on gender? You want to give your thoughts on this? You want to give your thoughts on that? And I think he's just let it all just roll and just get to his head. Here, let's play another clip. This is the same conversation, but just near the end, they get into, I believe they're talking about sports, but the same conversation, but he gets a little unhinged near the end.
Emergent conduct of people to fit that.
Okay, well, can we just come back to the female shortlist and other opportunities that women are afforded by virtue of being women? And them now being excluded from that because males are entering that competition.
Yeah, so a deeper problem, thank you for bringing that up. A deeper problem there is, why were women underrepresented to begin with? What kind of bias exists within Parliament or among the voters, maybe even the female voters, that prevented the representation from being there in the first place? That's a whole other social question that maybe can and should be answered at a deeper level than a quota coming in after the fact.
Oh, I'm not a fan of quotas, but
that's
if they
how
exist,
I would address that question.
Hold on a second. That's not addressing the question at all. The question is, female shortlist exists. Should biological males be allowed to enter those female shortlists? That's as simple as the question is.
Yeah, I'm saying I would ask why you have the short list in the first place. It's because there's something deeper that's wrong with society, that women are underrepresented in governance. So to say now to protect that now and not try to get to the root of that problem, I think is the cart in front of the horse. So I would go deeper to that problem. So
but
you don't
there
even
are
have to
women
have that question.
whose opportunities are being curtailed today because they are being forced to compete, whether in sports or elsewhere, against people who have some kind of advantage over them.
We're in a transitional period, so we have to figure that out. But the way to figure out things that require solutions to progressive change is not to regress it to how things once were. If that were the case, I would still be drinking from a segregated water fountain. Okay? Oh, let's merge the water fountains and let's create the opportunities from below so that we don't even need the short list. Okay? That's how I would approach this. So yeah, we're in the middle of solving that problem now. Let's figure it out together.
I think that a lot of people would have an issue with what you're saying, Neil, is because they see women being denied opportunities. They see an unfair playing field, metaphorically and literally speaking.
So fix the playing field, damn it. What, don't say it's an unfair playing field, so all of a sudden the big issue is trans women taking the slot of a woman in an unfair playing field. Fix the playing field. And you know something? The day you fix that playing field, this conversation will look completely ridiculous. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
So that is Neil deGrasse Tyson, folks. Little unhinged. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's very odd to see him get like that over a topic like this. You would think he doesn't have too much of a dog in this race, but it seems like everything, like it's almost like his career is riding on these debates, these conversations that he's having about this subject. It's very weird. Very weird. Again, that leans me towards, somebody's a little bought and paid for. That's just me. That's what I think. I think he's bought and paid for. I'll just be straight up with you guys. But let's get into Bill Maher and Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're talking a little bit about the same stuff. And just to touch on what they were talking about, he didn't even answer the question. And here's another thing that I want to touch on really quick. If you're a white person, do not allow somebody of color to do what Neil deGrasse Tyson did, because that's what people will do. He's having a conversation, his argument's falling apart, and he just goes right back to, I would still be drinking from a segregated what? He's trying to make it all of a sudden about race and trying to disable the people that he's talking to from answering or questioning that. That's what he's trying to do. Some people, black people, I don't know who else has those things that they can bring up, but don't let people do that to you, because that's just somebody trying to disqualify you from a conversation, because now it becomes about segregation and race, and these things are all of a sudden things, they're a boogeyman conversation that you're not allowed to touch on. Don't allow people to do that to you. I hate when I see black people do that, because it's like, man, you should be better than that. You should, if you're making a point and you're trying to defend that point and all that good stuff, you should just be able to defend that point. But let's get into him and Bill Maher sitting down, having a conversation. And Bill, the guys at Trigonometry, really nice guys. Really nice guys, really intelligent guys. There's two of them. They could have cut Neil deGrasse Tyson up. They could have cut up his argument. They could have went really hard, and they really didn't. They allowed him to be condescending. They allowed him to cut them off, interrupt them, not let them speak. They allowed a lot. Bill Maher, I don't agree with everything he has to say, but at least he doesn't let that happen. Let's get into it.
Is it better thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Is it better thinking? I know you think that, you had a thing with Martina Navratilova.
What do you mean I have nothing? What do you mean?
A beef. Well, she has beef with you.
Why did she have a beef with me?
Because you think, guys with dicks should get in the women's swimming pool, basically.
Well, whatever got clipped and reposted, I don't know. But what I said was that in this emergent space where you have people expressing themselves on a gender spectrum, and you want to now compete in sports, that's still a frontier to be solved. And I don't have the answer, but I can suggest one, whether or not it'll work. Maybe we don't compete by gender anymore. We compete on hormone ratios, okay? There was a woman who had uncommonly high testosterone levels, and they wanted to disqualify her because of how manly she was when she was born a woman and competing as a woman. So that's how we're going to do it.
This is
what you really want. Wait, Bill, no, I've thought this through more than you might think I have. Oh. So what you really want is an interesting contest between people who are similarly talented. The least interesting Super Bowl you could ever watch is a blowout by halftime.
See, what we agree on is that there are anomalies in human nature, whereas
yes.
The vast majority of people, I'm sorry, are still male or female. And certainly every cell in our body is dictating one of those other sexes. I mean, obviously,
hormones are. Yeah.
Obviously, also, I make sperm and other people make eggs.
That's what hormones do. Yeah.
You can't deny that. Okay. So but we, as liberals, I think, agree that, there are anomalies in nature and they should be respected and protected. But this attempt to reorganize all of society around what a very tiny percentage, who, again, we can protect and respect without pretending that every baby is a jump ball like penis. What the fuck? I don't know. That doesn't mean anything. We have no idea what this child is. I mean, that seems to be where you want to go. I mean, like, how many people fit this description that we should reorganize sports around? We have men's sports and women's sports. And if the best team in the WNBA played the worst team in the NBA, the score would be 1,000,000-0. Can we organize society around that basic point with this, of course, proviso that we protect and respect people who do not fit into it?
Let's segregate society between dark-skinned people and light-skinned people that nature made it that way, and that's how it is. So
nature did make it that way. And it's not segregating.
Well, there was a
segregating anything.
That attitude 150 years ago was
2 years ago. You act like this was yes, right. Lincoln. This was a big issue in the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Trans people. That's right.
I'm talking about
I remember that from
I'm talking about
1861. Yes, I remember those debates.
It was 1860.
Lincoln was all about getting trans. Oh, for fuck's sake. You're ridiculous.
No. So here it is.
He did it again. I didn't even realize that he did that in this clip. That's his go-to. When his argument falls apart, he's like, let me make this about race really quick. Let me mirror this to the whole race thing, and this white person will not be able to argue with me. That's exactly what he's doing. It's so sad when people do that, especially because we think of this guy as to be someone so smart. Him, Sam Harris, Bill Nye, the science guy, all these people have just fallen apart. They get bought, they get paid for, they have this mind virus, as Joe put it, infect them. And the next thing you know, they're saying things that are completely out of pocket, completely silly. I don't think he realizes how much he is hurting women. Not physically, because I'm not one of those people that says words are violence. I'm not one of those people. But just hurting their cause, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to have their own leagues and, do their own thing. Like, he's hurting that dramatically. I don't know. And also, I'm not a scientist. I'm no Bill Nye. I'm no Neil deGrasse Tyson. But I feel like no matter how much testosterone you give a lady, I don't think she starts making sperm. Because he said it's hormones that do those things. I don't think a lady starts making sperm if you give her enough hormones. I don't think if you give me enough hormones, enough estrogen or whatever, I don't think if you give me enough, I start making eggs. I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. You let me know in the comments. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I'm positive that's not a thing. So it's not just hormones that make those things. It's just a little thing I touched on. I'm a scientist now, guys, just so you know. Let's get into the last clip. They're talking about wokeism. They're talking about college campuses. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, again, just completely out of his scope, decides to school Bill Maher on how to do comedy. Let's go.
Surely there's a portfolio of jokes that would still work on a college campus. Surely.
I would hope not. From what maybe some college campuses, the ones you read about are fucking insane.
You've given up on an entire generation, and you don't know how to make them laugh.
I have given up on any place that doesn't even remotely attempt to believe in free speech and thinks that anything that they hear that they don't like, that they don't agree with, is violence. These people are fucking nuts, and you should be calling them out. Somebody like you, who has standing with kids, should be not joining them.
When there's a science objectivity to it,
you're doing what parents do. You're taking the path of least resistance, and therefore hurting the kids and yourself. Parents ruin both their lives. They ruin their fucking spoiled kids' lives, and they ruin their own lives because the kids rule the roost. So that's what you're doing on a national level.
I'm feeling more like on the porch. Get off my lawn.
Really? I feel like we're in the barbershop.
Well, that works too. In the inner city, it's the barbershop. We don't have porches there's the stoop. There's the stoop. So here's my point.
That's my
I'm
piece.
trying to get through to people on my social media and the like, and I see what pisses people off, what they react to, and I say, all right, these are the landmines. I'm going to navigate that. I'm going to navigate.
Okay, you're.
So I navigated so that I can, because my father's greatest bit of wisdom to me, several nuggets. One of them was, it's not good enough to be right. you also have to be effective. And if you reject the college campus, then you have no influence on them. They're not going to say, oh, we're not going to get Bill, maybe we should change. Then you have no influence on them.
Sweetheart, I can wait till they grow up a little. Okay, I can wait. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about with comedians.
You pull age rank on me?
Comedian. No, you don't know what I'm talking about. You know you know outer space.
Well, what I will tell you.
I know fucking doing comedy shows.
I'm a huge.
Can't disagree with Bill Maher on this one. Not at all. He literally is like 67 years old. He's been doing stand-up since he was about 20. He has almost 50 years of experience. But Neil deGrasse Tyson's like, this is what I do when I'm on Twitter. And on top of that, Neil deGrasse Tyson is talking about, I see what pisses people off. Those are the landmines and I navigate it. Have you seen any navigation in the clips that I've shown you? Go check out the full podcast as well. It's Trigonometry. Just write in Trigonometry, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Write in Bill Maher, Neil deGrasse Tyson. You'll see the whole episodes. Bill Maher has some clips as well, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know what's happened to this guy. He's become unhinged, and I'm so glad that Jeff Dye decided to call it out. Really big thing to do. Also, on his first really massive podcast with Joe Rogan, decides to call out Neil deGrasse Tyson. Really, I respect it. I respect it a lot because someone had to. I'm surprised Rogan hasn't. I'm surprised no one that Rogan knows in the Rogan sphere has not called out Neil deGrasse Tyson because, I don't know, man. He sounds silly. And I feel so weird saying it because when Bill Maher says, or when Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about, or no, Bill Maher said that he has like access to kids. Like he has their ears. I was one of those young people. I don't think he has their ears anymore. Maybe he does. Maybe that's what this whole woke play is all about. But I used to respect this guy a lot and think he was so intelligent, but not anymore. Not if this is the stuff that he's talking about. When's the last time you heard this guy talk about outer space? What happened to that? I don't get it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of this whole thing. And again, go check out those episodes. Trigonometry, Bill Maher, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Check them out because they're wild conversations. And there's some more out there as well. But like, subscribe, share. It helps the channel tremendously. And I hit 100,000 subscribers. I completely forgot to bring that up. Thank you so much. This time last year, I had 1,000 subscribers. Now I have 100,000. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much it means to me. And other than that, I'm out.